Believe me, I understand that not all of you out there are irrigators. When I stand on the patio at home and look out across the terrain around me, I only see one center pivot. And that's certainly somewhat the exception in Nebraska compared to other parts of the state. But whether you want to believe this or not, center pivots are an essential part of the landscape of agriculture, especially in the Western Corn Belt. They normalize Mother Nature and what she throws at us and gives us the ability to keep demand somewhat constant on a year-by-year basis and spread out the different ways that we can get our nutrients and our water to our crops. So whether you're an irrigator and love or hate your irrigation system, or not an irrigator and wish you had one to minimize some of your risk, it's important to understand that the center pivot is not only an essential water device out there in our fields, but it also plays an essential role in our nitrogen application plans. I'm Keith Byerly, Precision Ag Manager at Central Valley Ag, and this is your agronomy focus video that corresponds with my article on the CVA website. So, I want you all to think back to the beginning of December when we talked about this notion on nitrogen applications and differing ways that we needed to look at putting nitrogen out there because of impending regulations from our NRDs and other government bodies. Where we started this conversation from was a place that we needed to think about more ways that we could get nitrogen out throughout the season because we were going to be limited at some point in time about how much we could apply at a time or how often we could apply nitrogen and the calendar timing of that application. Now, I know that there's a conception in the industry, I've heard it from growers. Running UAN through my pivot's gonna rust that system out and I'll have a pile of junk metal in no time at all. I would urge you to just simply take a drive up Highway 20 in northern Nebraska and look at the pivots that are out there. You don't see pivot after pivot piled up and rusting away, and that's because it doesn't hurt the pivot at all to put UAN on, even when you do it a lot. And when I say a lot, those folks out there are putting up to 5 applications a year on via fertigation and maybe 150 or more pounds of nitrogen that way throughout the course of the year. Now, for those of you that don't irrigate, I know that I may have just lost you. The idea of putting nitrogen on that often or in that quantity in season sounds exhausting. And yes, it is work, but why do they do it? Really one of two reasons. Number one, when you travel west of Highway 14 here in Nebraska and CEC levels begin to drop down, we simply can't put on more than 80 pounds at a time, or it's at risk to being lost to the environment either down or up. The other reason is because there are reams of data out there that support the notion that in-season nitrogen application drives yield. Now, when we look at those two factors together, it's easy to understand why those growers out there put on 5 applications of nitrogen throughout the course of the season. And fertigating doesn't mean that you have to abandon other technologies and that you are closed in to doing things a certain way. As a case in point, our Advanced Cropping Systems division even sells a controller from AgXL that lets us variable rate nitrogen while we keep the irrigation rate the same across the field. So technology is catching up and giving us the full litany of options that we would have with any other application system with our center pivot and fertigating at the same time. So for those of you that do fertigate, I give you a big thumbs up. It's essential in meeting our NRD requirements, essential in placing that product when we need it and where we need it. For those of you that have a center pivot and don't do it today, I want you to engage your trusted advisor in a conversation and understand more about how fertigation can fit onto your farm.